بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. In the book God's Emissaries, the last thing we were speaking about is that Adam and Hawa were to leave the garden and to go to the earth. We're on page 50. So it says that at this moment, Jibreel placed Adam on top of one of Becca's mountains. Becca, we said, is the ancient name for the Mecca. So he placed Adam on top of one of these mountains, and Eve or Hawa on top of a neighboring mountain. Adam's mountain would later come to be known as Safa because he was Allah's Safwa, or chosen servant. And he was the first to set foot upon that mountain. And Hawa's mountain came to be known as Mount Marwa because she is the first Marwa, or woman, who was to set foot on that mountain. So these were the reasonings behind these names, Safa and Marwa. It says from a distance of 400 meters, which is mentioned in narrations, that Adam could see where Hawa had descended, but he thought to himself, Allah must have separated her from me because it is no longer permissible for me to have a relationship with her. Otherwise, he would have sent her down with me on Safa. So he would visit her during the daytime and speak with her, but return at nightfall for fear of his desire for her would get the better of him. So this continued for some days. One day when they were together on Marwa, they gazed around at the barren desert and jagged escarpments that surrounded them. In contrast to the garden from which they came from, their surroundings seemed to be pretty rough, pretty brutal. And it only added to their feeling that they had, this sorrowful feeling that they had, because life was a lot more difficult now in this place. So they looked at the sky and they began wailing. They started crying, hoping Allah would hear them. And it said they dropped their heads crying, and Allah heard their cries and asked them, what makes them cry? So you know that I am pleased with you both, that Allah is pleased with them. He's letting them know, why are you crying? Well, I'm pleased with both of you. They said that the lingering memory of our mistake makes us cry. Because of it, we had to leave your proximity. We can no longer hear the perpetual exaltation of the angels as we could in the garden. Our naked bodies are exposed, and we are compelled to till the earth and seek out our food and drink. And atop it all, we feel terribly lonely since you have split us apart. So we see that they had remorse for their past actions. And this is also something that we spoke of in the other class of greater sins, that we should also have remorse for our actions. We should truly feel sorrow at those things, and we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and that we will not commit that action again. So he said, for this crying is during these days, it says that Adam would later be known in history as one of the 5 lamenters, those 5 people who cried a lot. The others are Yaqub, Yusuf, Fatima, and Imam Sajjad, or Imam Zain al-Abidin, alayhim wassalam. So Adam was one of these people because of his crying over the things that he had done in the past, and how he had his current situation where he had to leave the garden, and his separation from Hawa. Allah spoke to Jibreel. He said, I am Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, and I wish to show mercy to Adam and Hawa, for they have called on me. Take down to them a pavilion from paradise and bring them together inside of it. Jibra'il made the pavilion directly under the angel's house of worship in the sky, in the place where the Kaaba would eventually be built. So there was the Baitul Ma'mur that we mentioned in the heavens, where the angels would worship. Directly below this, in Mecca, Allah has told Jibra'il to bring down a pavilion to put in this same place. And eventually the Kaaba would be built in this place as well. So the tent poles were hewn from solid ruby that glowed red. The light from the ruby poles lit the surrounding mountains and beyond. Allah made all the areas illuminated by this light into his haram, the sacred sanctuary that surrounds Mecca. The ropes that supported the pavilion were anchored to the ground using large pegs. This ring of pegs eventually became the boundary of the sacred mosque of Mecca. Jibra'il guided Adam down from Safa and Hawa from Marwa and allowed them to meet each other inside the pavilion. Then on Allah's command, Jibra'il ordered 70,000 angels to descend and surround the pavilion. They were instructed to circuit it as they used to circuit the house of worship in the skies, day and night, and if necessary, to defend it against any of the jinn. So this is the prototype for the Holy Kaaba in Mecca, was this pavilion. This gives us a kind of idea of how all of this started when we look at the Holy Kaaba, for example, and Safa and Marwa and these things. Allah reminded Adam that he would no longer provide for all his needs as he had done in the garden. Rather, he would have to till the land with his own hands and eat of his own labor. When he realized what a great blessing the garden had been, Adam fell prostrate to Allah for 3 consecutive days without lifting his head. So we see that Adam had it made in the garden. Everything was provided for him. But in earth, we have to work. We have to grow the food. We have to, provide shelter for us from the heat of the sun and protect ourselves from the insects, for example, all of these type of things. And he realized, how better it was in the other place. And a lot of times, we take things for granted. We say, we just take it for granted, and then we don't appreciate the thing until we lose it. We see this a lot of times with the marriages. The husband takes the wife for granted, for example. It could be vice versa, but let's say the husband takes the wife for granted and then end up getting divorced. And the husband now realizes how miserable his life is without his wife, and how he treated her bad, and he missed her, and he wished he had her back, that his life would be easier again, and these things. So a lot of time we don't appreciate something until we lose that thing. So we have to be appreciative to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of the things that we have. For example, maybe we are complaining about our car. Our car is not the new one and it's old, and I wish I had this one and that one. And then our car is gone. Our car is totaled, or our car is stolen, or our car is broken. And now we're walking. We say, I miss my car. Your car will be the most beloved thing to you that you could think of at that time, because now you're walking and you're feeling the pain of having to walk, and you didn't realize how much of a luxury it was, even though your car wasn't the best of cars, but the fact that you had a car. So we have to be grateful to Allah in all the situations. So Adam realized this, and he prostrated to Allah and in thanks to Allah. Jibra'il taught him the following prayer through which he could ask for Allah's provision. He said, "O Allah, suffice me all my needs in the temporal world and spare me of every danger I may encounter until I reach paradise, and clothe me in well-being so that that life is sweet. In answer to his supplication, Allah sent saplings of fruit trees from the garden for Adam to plant. There were date palms, grapevines, olive, and pomegranate trees. He also sent down a box thorn like the one from which Adam had hewn his staff. Adam immediately set out to plant all of these so that he and his progeny would have food to eat. So Adam planted this fruits, he was longing for those fruits that he had from before. So now he was able to grow these fruits in this world too. When Adam ate the food he was able to collect, he felt an unusual heaviness in his stomach that he didn't feel when he was in the garden before. He complained about this discomfort to Jibreel, who explained to him how now, since he was in this world, that he would have to relieve himself regularly of the waste that his body didn't use. This was something they didn't have to do in the garden. So now he has another thing that is, his inconvenience for him that he didn't have when he was in the garden. So some days later, Jibreel informed Adam and Hawa that they must return to Safa and Marwa, and that their pavilion was to be removed from its place. So Adam thought, did Allah order us to leave this place because he's displeased with us? Or is this just some part of his plan for us? So he wanted to make sure that he didn't earn Allah's displeasure by something, and he's telling him to leave. And we should look at our lives and ask ourselves, when we look at our life, are we doing anything to earn Allah's displeasure? We see that this was a concern of Adam's, but is it a concern for us? Do we think about this in our daily life? Are we doing something that would earn Allah's displeasure and earn us the exile away from Allah's proximity? Or for example, if we were to come on Day of Judgment because of our actions, would Holy Prophet be pleased with us when he saw us, or would he tell us, you are not from among our followers? So we have to look at our lives and examine them and see what we are doing with ourselves. Inshallah, this is the time that we can reform our bad habits and change them into good ones, and that we can increase our good habits as a training ground for the rest of the year, that we can continue on doing this. For example, if we didn't read the Holy Quran the whole entire year, but month of Ramadan came and we pulled the Quran off the shelf and we dusted it off, and now we're reading it. After Ramadan, after Eid, for example, we shouldn't put the Quran back on the shelf and abandon it until next month of Ramadan. We should have gotten in the habit of taking a small portion of our day and dedicating it for this thing, reading Quran, or dedicating, we started reading dua, for example, dua Kumail on Thursdays, but before we didn't read it. But now in month of Ramadan, we're reading it. We should get used to this in a habit and build it for the rest of the year, that we can get closer to Allah's pleasure. So Jibreel, he said, he is not displeased with you. However, Allah may not be questioned about what he does. I will tell you, though, that the 70,000 angels whom Allah had sent to keep you company and protect your pavilion asked Allah to build a house of worship for them in place of this pavilion, similar to the house of worship they used to have in the skies. For this, Allah has ordered me to move you away and take your pavilion back to the paradise. So these angels asked Allah to build a house of worship there instead of this temporary house of worship. So Adam said, we are content with whatever Allah has planned for us. Before sending him back to Mount Safa, Jibreel took Adam by the hand and led him to the place where the pavilion had stood. At that instant, Allah sent a cloud that cast a heavy shadow near where he stood. Allah said, Adam, mark with your feet the outline of the shadow that this cloud now cast upon the ground. There I shall build for you a house of worship that will be the focal point towards which you and your progeny will offer your prayers. So Adam is outlining the place where the Holy Kaaba will be built. Allah sent a host of angels with the mission of laying the foundations for the Kaaba along the perimeter Adam had outlined. In the meantime, Adam and Hawa were escorted back to their vantage points atop their two mountains, from where they could watch the angels do their work. So Adam and Hawa, they went and watched these angels build the Holy Kaaba. It said when they were done praying, he returned to Safa. He made this short excursion 2 more times to visit Hawa. So after they spent some time building the Holy Kaaba, some few days, and then let's see, he told him that their prayers had been answered and that the Kaaba had been built. One cornerstone had been hewn from Safa, another from Mount Marwa, a third from Mount Sinai, and a fourth from the Mount of Peace in Kufa. So the rest of the stones had been hewn from Mount Abu Qubais, which loomed high less than 100 meters due east of Safa. The Kaaba had 2 doors, one facing northeast and the other facing southwest. Within the eastern corner of the Kaaba, they installed a stone from the skies. So it's talking about what the Holy Kaaba was built from. It was built from, the stones were from different surrounding mountains. And now they came to the eastern corner of the Kaaba. They installed a stone from the skies. The stone was whiter than milk. It had been one of Allah's greatest angels, the first to answer Allah's call to obedience, to honor it. Allah entrusted it with the covenant he made with humankind. Over the ages, people would renew their covenant with Allah through this stone. And in response to their sins, it would turn pitch black, which became known as Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone. We see that this is mentioned in Wasa al-Shia, also in, I was reading on this narration in Al-Kafi. So it started out as a white stone, and over time, it turned into what we know as the black stone. So this is how the Holy Kaaba was built in the time of Adam. Now we have to talk about the first Hajj. It said no more than 2 weeks had passed since Adam and Hawa had descended from the garden. It was approaching the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, and Jibreel was given the honor of teaching them how to perform the Hajj. He first took them from Mecca to the plain of Arafat. There he told them to admit all their faults before Allah and told them that this would become a tradition among their progeny until the end of time. When the sun set, Jibreel took them to Muzdalifah and told them to combine their evening and night prayers there. The next morning, they went to Mina. Jibreel showed Adam the place where the mosque of Khayf would eventually stand and asked him to mark its circumference with his feet as he had done for the Holy Kaaba. So Jibreel is showing Adam how to make the Hajj. He said, when they had prayed, he told them to offer a sacrifice. Adam sacrificed an animal for Allah, and Allah sent down lightning from the sky to burn the offering, indicating that he had accepted it. Jibreel told Adam, Allah blessed you by showing you these rites through which he will forgive your sins and has accepted your sacrifice. So shave your head as a sign of humility to him. Jibreel wielded a blade fashioned of ruby from paradise, and with it he shaved Adam's head. So these rites that we see in Hajj, they come from all the way from the time of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. He said they began walking in the direction of Mecca when Shaitan appeared before them. Jibreel ordered Adam to cast 7 stones at him and say, Allah is greater with each throw. When he did this, Shaitan vanished. Then they proceeded to Mecca to circuit the newly built Kaaba. Adam and Hawa watched the angels circuit the Kaaba. They followed their lead and circuited it 7 times and performed the first tawaf of the Kaaba. Then Jibreel took Adam to a spot between the Kaaba's eastern door and the black stone called the Motalzam. He told them, "This is where you and your progeny may confess your sins before Allah." So Adam turned his attention to Allah and said, "Lord, he who worships is rewarded, and I have worshipped." Allah said, What you ask what you have. Ask your hajat." Adam said, "Oh Allah, forgive me my sin." Allah says, "Adam, you have been forgiven." Adam said, "And forgive my children after me." Allah says, "O Adam, if any among them bring his sins here as you have brought them, then I shall forgive him." So we see here that Adam was not only concerned with himself, but was also concerned for his progeny, and that he's concerned that, to forgive them as well. And we should learn from this that we should also ask forgiveness for our families as well. Not only ask forgiveness just for ourselves, but do we ask forgiveness from Allah for our spouse? Do we ask forgiveness from Allah for our children? Do we ask forgiveness of Allah for our parents, for the believers, for other people? As we see that Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayha salam would pray for everyone and not even herself. And then Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam would ask her, did she even pray for herself? She named all these other people, and she replied that the neighbor is first, then the house. So always thinking about other people. We can draw this lesson from this too, that we should pray for our families, we should pray for the believers. And we see that Allah told him, if they come here to Hajj, they come here to the Holy Kaaba, then I will forgive them. So this is one means of getting forgiveness, is going to do the Hajj and going to do Umrah, going to visit the Holy Kaaba and to pray to Allah in this sacred place to ask forgiveness. Allah says that He will forgive them. When they finished their pilgrimage, Allah told them to fast during the 13th, 14th, and 15th days of the month. He promised them that anyone from their progeny who fasted these 3 days of every month will be rewarded as though they had fasted perpetually. He told them that these fasts would whiten the spiritual darkness of sin and would thereafter be called the white days or the bright days. Having learned these rites of Hajj, Adam would continue to perform them year after year until by the end of his life, he had performed Hajj 700 times and Umrah 300 times. This is a lot of importance that was given to Hajj, that we see that Adam has performed this Hajj 700 times in his life. We see that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, our second Imam, alayhi salam, it's reported that he went to Hajj by foot 25 times. So we see that even our Imam would go to Hajj by foot, and the reward that is showing that, putting this effort into going by foot. The next section, so this completes the part where he's speaking about Hajj. And then we see that the author, he mentions we see that the men that have beard, where does this beard come from? It says, once Adam prayed to Allah, saying, "Lord, make me handsome." So Allah gave him a beard black as coal. Adam stroked his new beard and wondered, what is this thing? Allah told him that it is a beard, and I have given it to you and your male progeny to make you handsome. So this beard that men have is a response to a dua that Adam made to make him handsome. And Allah gifted him this to make him handsome, and all of the progeny of Adam, they have this. Allah told Adam, I will summarize all knowledge for you in four teachings. One relates to me, one relates to you, and one relates to you and me, and one relates to you and other people. The first is to worship me and not associate partners with me. The second is that I shall reward you for your deeds when you are in most need of it. Third is that you is the third is that it is upon you to pray and it is upon me to answer. Fourth is that you must desire for others what you desire for yourself. So here we see that uh, Allah is telling Adam that first, not to associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Uh, Secondly, Allah will reward us for our deeds in the times that we need them the most. Sometimes it might be here in this dunya, and sometimes we may not see the reward for our deed in this dunya. Allah might save that reward for the hereafter. We have a narration that says that if we were to see all of the rewards in the hereafter for the du'as that we have made in this world, the ones that were not accepted, we would have wished that none of our du'a in this world were accepted because of the reward that unanswered du'a had in the hereafter. So maybe Allah will reward it in this world when we need it, or maybe is saving it for the time that we need it the most, which is in the hereafter. The third is that we pray and Allah will answer our prayer. Sometimes we see our prayers, they go unanswered. And, this is a lengthy discussion, has a lot of things, but sometimes we can say that maybe we're praying for something and we don't know the outcome of that thing. Maybe we think it is good, but in reality, it is not good. Allah knows that that thing may be bad and is keeping us away from that. This is one of the things. A lot of times we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for things, but we are committing sins which are blocking our dua. As we mentioned in Dua Kumail, oh Allah, forgive me of the sins that keep the du'as from being answered. So we know that there are certain sins that that block our du'a from getting accepted. The fourth thing he told Adam is that you must desire for others what you desire for yourself. So we need to think about other people, as I mentioned. If we want to live good, we should also want our community members to live good as well. If we, there's other narrations that say those who go to bed, full while their neighbor is hungry, they are not from us. So it's showing that they are only thinking of themselves, but they're not concerned about other people. Are other people okay? Are they suffering? Can you help them or not? He says, once in the valley of Rawa outside of Mecca, Allah showed Adam a vision of all of his progeny until the end of time. Adam was intrigued in particular by Dawood and noticed that Allah had decided that he would only live 50 years. He asked Allah if he could give 50 years of his own life to make Dawood's life 100 years. Allah said he would allow it, and on his behest, Jibreel and Mikael descended along with Israel. Israel recorded in his ledgers that 50 years were being transferred from Adam to Dawood. So Adam wanted his progeny to live longer. When he saw Dawood, he even took from his own life and gave to Dawood. And we see that as we have that common saying that we will give you the shirt off of our back. We give you everything. But Adam, literally, he gave him 50 years from his life. This is how much he, had love and thought for other people. It said before long, Eve or Hawa gave birth to a daughter whom they named Anak. She grew up. She proved to be, she was not a good person. It said she grew up to be indecent and corrupt woman. And Allah sent she was killed by a wolf and a vulture. The vultures, they come and they clean up the carcasses of animals or people. But however, they had another child after this. Hawa's second child was Cain, in Arabic Qabil. When Qabil grew to adulthood, Allah sent a female jinn in the form of a woman as a spouse or a mate, a wife for Cain or for Qabil. Her name was Johanna. On the command of Allah, on the command of Allah, Adam married Qabil to this jinn in the form of woman. Hawa's third child was Habil, or Abel in English. When he grew to adulthood, Allah sent him a female Hawra, a creature from paradise, a woman from paradise. She took the form of a woman, and her name was Turk. Adam married Habil and Turk upon Allah's command. So we see here that this is how the species were, started, because we have this. I've seen this doubt a lot of time with Christianity, and they say that if there were no other creatures, then na'udhu billah, there were incestuous relationships between brother and sister, and this is how mankind populated from this. And with this, some immoral groups of people try to justify that incest is permissible, and they use this as example from Bible. The Bible doesn't speak anything on this issue. It doesn't say where the other children came from and how the rest of the progeny were born. But in Islam, alhamdulillah, it is very clear. We have narrations from this that there were no incest relationship, but in actuality that Allah married Habil to a female jinn in form of woman. Allah made a creation for him to marry, and also a woman of the paradise for Habil. So they married these two, and then the progeny came from that line. Sometime later, Allah spoke to Adam and said, I have decided from time immemorial never to leave the earth without one endowed with knowledge through whom my religion could be known. I have decided to bring forth these guides from your progeny. Think now of your legacy of prophetic knowledge and all of the names that I have taught you and all of the guidance I have given you, which is vital to the prosperity of humankind. Turn all this over to your son Habil. So all of this came to his son Habil, or Abel. So he's saying that the successorship from Adam would pass on to his son Habil, and for him to teach him all of the secrets that he had taught him in the beginning, all of the names of all of the things. And this knowledge would be passed on from father to son. I think this should be sufficient for now, because the next section is a little bit longer. We'll speak about the conflict between Qabil and Habil, or Cain and Abel, and what happened with their situation, inshallah, in the next week. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli
ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If you have any question, let me know, or inshallah it's clear.
Is there any mention of the women in Quran, the jinn and Hawra?
No, it's come from narrations. I don't remember any of that.
I didn't see any. Yeah, I didn't see. I was wondering if there's any kind of illusion or any kind of reference besides the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam talking about it.
No, I think a lot of these things were made clear within the narrations, because the Quran is a book of general things. For example, it tells us to pray, but it doesn't tell us how to pray. the imams and the Holy Prophet and imams came and explained these things. So Quran tells us that Allah created man and woman, and from these two, many other people came from them, but it doesn't exactly tell us how. So this question was asked to imams, and imams answered and explained.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So no more questions. I guess we'll see everyone next week at the same time.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
So
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
everyone's fasting, and remember, keep me in your dua, and I'll keep all of you in my prayers as well.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Take care. Qada.
rahmatullah.
Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.